Donohue Bergeler is a graduate student in our, I hate to say erstwhile now, program in foreign language education. We're trying to find a way through, by the way, the Texas Language Center to, we can't replace what the FLEC program was for so many decades, but we're at least trying to put a portfolio into place that will give foreign language education a certification. That, it's not going to replace the PhD, but that's kind of the best we can do. So she is finishing up her PhD in foreign language education. She earned her bachelor's degree from Boston University and her MA from the Technische Universität in Dresden. Is that right? Something close to that? My German sucks majorly. I apologize. I'm glad Alex isn't here either. She supported the STEM field international students both in Dresden and in Hamburg, and was a trainee in the European Parliament in Luxembourg. She's currently an assistant instructor in German, pursuing her PhD, as I said, in foreign language ed here at UT, and is also the coordinator. I found this I went to the website. It's really cool. The coordinator for the Texas State German Contest. Her research interests focus on second language acquisition, study abroad setting, and include, and you'll see this from her presentation, I already know, as you can see from the secrets hanging around, experiential learning, motivation, and intercultural learning. So, presenting today on her experience in first-year German using drama techniques, please help me welcome Devon.
Thank you. So, as the other presenters did, I'd also like to thank Tom and Betsy and the Texas Language Center for putting this together and getting together a group of people who are interested in using drama in foreign language classrooms. So what we're going to do in this session is going to be a little bit different. We're going to actually experience a couple of techniques from drama-based pedagogy. This is based on a sample lesson that was longer. I've kind of truncated it to fit into our 40-minute session. And this is to explore drama as a process as opposed to a product. So unlike some of the other talks that we've heard today, there is no final performance. This is exploring through drama as a process. Okay, so we're going to start with a warm-up that's related to the topic of living situations and a place where the target language is spoken. This is kind of a common theme in first-year classrooms, and this was developed for student living situations in Germany. So we're going to start out by pretending that we're in German and that we're speaking German. And also, I'll warn you that we're going to go through these a little bit faster than we would in a normal language class. So the first thing I'd like to invite you to come take a marker, and there are 2 prompts on the board, to think about those, and then to write, maybe finish the sentence in a way that makes sense to you. Or if you agree with something someone has already written, feel free to write a check mark, respond to each other. So, please. Okay, Jen. If you know German, go ahead. But,
okay, I'll tell who's a Leo here. I'm not I'm going to keep the record of this.
A bad roommate. First of them, there was last.
Oh, good choice. Good choice. That's what I was going to write. I swear that's what I was going to write.
And feel free to go to the other prompt as well.
Oh, okay. That's wonderful. Thank you.
And also get messy in there. You don't have to wait for each person to finish it.
I feel like I should be going quickly.
Pretty soon the music will stop and you'll have to grab it.
What is this music? It's actually my band, Flights, and I have to It's about 1 minute from it's next door to the famous one. Yeah, so it is there. Do you want to hear
Do you have any authentic performance? Because those other guys are like bees, right? Do you have any songs? Yeah, so awesome.
Actually, this could be from home.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just
The last second is falling out of the hourglass. Go for it.
So I see you have a lot of genre knowledge, knowing about music. Okay, so let's get this back up. Okay, so yeah, thank you for your engagement. So we'll now go through the posters and use a reflection technique that is common to drama-based pedagogy. It is called DAR. The first thing you do is you describe something, what you did, what you see, then you analyze, and then you relate. It comes from Dawson and Lee. Katie Dawson is here in the Department of Theater and Dance, and I highly recommend her drama-based pedagogy course, which I already did over lunch. But they took this from aesthetic learning, so working with photographs. So some of you might use this in ideas when you're talking about the visual of putting on a play. You can get students to really delve into these pictures using this technique. Okay, so we're actually going to do that with the posters. Okay, so first thing is to describe what do you see here? There we go. What do you see in? Let's start with this poster about a bad roommate. Okay, what kind of words are you seeing repeating? What traits come up often? And if you need to, you can come back up to take a look.
You may just read them out, just or
Okay. So we have here a bad roommate invites guests without asking, eats my food with a check mark, and doesn't cook for me. Response. Does not clean the shower after he or she finished with a little sad face. Is inconsiderate with a check. Is messy. We have 4 checks here. Makes my part of this house smell bad. Always complains or plays loud music at night. Lack of consideration. Eats out of the peanut butter jar. Wakes me up at night with a check and an asterisk. Okay, so if we're describing this, what things come up often? Okay, messy.
Possessions, I guess.
Okay, so possessions and maybe using things that aren't theirs. Okay. Maybe a third idea?
I think it's just like an overall tone of like selfishness, like self-centered, thinking about themselves. Yeah.
Lack of consideration.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is moving into the analysis already. We're seeing what the people said and we're interpreting this as the selfishness. Okay? What else do you see here? So why are these bad traits for roommates?
They all have impact on our existence in the room or in the apartment.
Okay.
That should make us happy. Upsets us.
It upsets
It
us,
upsets
yeah,
us,
we have a
yeah.
reaction to it. Okay, what are these traits, what do you find like really terrible, and what things are maybe a little less annoying?
Well, all of them kind of fit under the one comment, lack of consideration. They're
Yeah.
almost all inconsiderate acts. The rest of them aren't.
Because these things like invites guests without asking, is your roommate intentionally trying to bother you?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, that's an interesting
Well,
thought.
it's a reaction, like your reaction is on the person doing, right?
This could be,
He or she may not think it's a bad thing.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move to the reflection and relating. Okay, so this is a result of a poll of 1,000 students in Germany, and I will move it to an English translation. So these are things that 1,000 students in Germany found annoying. So what do you think could be different in other cultures? And what similarities are you seeing?
It's funny, smoking didn't come up on this. That's interesting.
Yeah,
It's almost
yeah.
every
Yeah.
day. Yeah, that's kind of like it's not done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's not done.
So that, those were
No
actually
way.
their responses.
Mhm.
Okay, you can
So
tell
with the
that.
smoking, that's interesting because we also live in Austin,
Right.
which might be different from another place
Right,
in the
right,
US.
right, right.
But like smoking in the house is already kind of really like no thing. So
Yeah,
nobody-
that's right. That's right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
think I know anybody who smokes in a
Yeah.
house.
Yeah, no, that's why I say that, and yet, while I was in college,
Yeah.
goes back in, if we go back to the late 70s, early 80s, that probably would have come up on the list,
Yeah.
and roommate smokes
Yeah.
indoors, yeah. Yeah.
So what of this also, some of this could be culturally, so we're thinking also time in the 70s might have been different than now, but what about also individuals? What is more of an individual thing and less of a cultural thing?
Well, the partying certainly is the last one.
Yeah.
Because someone might like the fact that his roommate's always throwing parties.
Right.
Always partying, if he's a partier too.
And we're willing to accept that
Yeah.
because there's a good connotation about party. That means
There
you're
can be.
enjoying life.
A
Yeah,
lot.
there
There's
can be.
nothing
Yeah,
wrong with it.
yeah.
Right.
Whereas if you like to live a quiet life and sleep in and things like that, or go to bed early, then that would be a bad thing, yeah.
And these can also change in an individual over time,
Yeah.
okay?
I notice I get older, all of these apply to me. That's, the older I get, the more of them I keep adding on, yeah.
Devin, I'm curious about flatmate doesn't follow rules.
Yeah.
Are those societal rules, are
Yeah.
those house rules, the rules of the apartment complex, or, something like that? I don't know. That sounds sort of German to not.
I thought too, what are the rules?
Yeah,
What are the rules?
Rules?
Where's the list? Yeah.
So Emily, I know you're in the German department. Do you have something to say about that? Because this does come from a German context.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, living in Germany, we did have kind of like flat rules, but they were in terms of cleanliness because Germans really valued cleanliness. So it was if you weren't doing your weekly duties, then you would get in trouble. But I don't know exactly. I was also, when I saw that, I was like, oh, typical German. You're not following the rules. But I don't know.
So this is something we'll get into in another activity. But for now, let's move to the second reflection on the second poster. So we have here, in order to live together and solve conflicts, roommates, ... We have here, must communicate, keep the lines open, and we have 5 check marks. Should be respectful, check mark and an asterisk. Need to talk it out, 2 check marks. Should be tolerant, check. No loud music, check. Talk before making decisions that affect both of you with 2 checks. No loud music, maybe I already said that. No loud music again. No loud music. Express their concerns and be good listeners, underlined exclamation point with a check. Have a weekly conversation hour, coffee, or others, and set expectations early. So again, let's describe what answers come up often, what things seem to be repeated.
Communication.
Yeah.
Communication.
Respectful, open communication.
That's a really good point, Betsy, because communication could also include screaming at each other.
Yeah.
It could include writing little passive-aggressive notes on the fridge.
Mhm.
Okay, so respectful communication. To analyze that why, and what of these solutions do you find best?
Well, I like set expectations early because I contributed that, but I do feel like if you're get together and suddenly someone says, well, I feel like the whole house should be bleached every 3 days, you know, and I never knew that, then I would, you know, think that this is not the right place for me, but, you know. So I feel like people should, before there are hard feelings,
Yeah.
you need to say, this is what I expect from you and what you will get from me.
Well, then tied to that, kind of in tandem would be the be a good listener, right? That is when you tell me the house should be bleached, whatever it is, to hear it and kind of go, yeah, I need to leave.
Bleach irritates my eyes anyway.
So then we can reflect on this and relate this to flat shares in general. Can we solve all problems in a shared space? And if not, how do we deal with that?
Compromise, negotiate and compromise.
Compromise and negotiate. What if somebody says, I really need this bleached household because I have allergies? Are all compromises, so is there a solution for every single thing?
Sounds like a personal problem.
If the solution includes I might have to move out, or you might have to move out, or, yeah.
Yeah, these are all
Yeah,
possibilities.
then there are solutions.
Okay, final thoughts about this poster? Okay, then we can move on to reflect about this poster dialogue is what this strategy is called. We'll reflect about it as a strategy, so we're stepping out of the participant role and back into professional development teacher mode. What did we do in this strategy? And you can be very obvious here.
We wrote down our thoughts, yeah, what our response. Yeah.
Okay.
And by the way, this would all be done in the language, right?
This would all be done in the language.
Yeah, okay.
And there could be different scaffolding, which I might have time to show you. Maybe not, we'll see. This would be done in the target language.
So you use adjectives, verbs to describe certain situation?
Now, if you have a big group, like my classes are 30 students, you can have a line of, it could take a long time for everybody, for each student to go to each one. Maybe you can have, okay, a group takes care of this 3 here, and this group,
Right.
or, because otherwise it will take forever.
Well, that's a good point. And originally I had, let's go back a little bit. I had 4 different topics, which I truncated for time concerns. But you can do, this gets at, for example, I dislike when flatmates and my flatmates dislike when I. You can take this and split it. You can take that and split it. I've done this kind of a thing with 25 students, and they usually have no problem kind of like marking up next to each other, which is something I was encouraging earlier. But we're also a different context, so it makes sense.
You could also get a bigger piece of paper that's
Yeah.
wider, and that way it'd be more comfortable for several people to write on it.
Or you can put the same prompt in several parts of the
Yeah.
room.
Yeah.
The same color of paper.
Right.
For example. But let's think about what else did we do? So what were we physically doing? What was happening inside this space?
Moving around space or
This whole room, this space.
Building off each other's ideas.
Yeah, you see what the person before us, what people had written and.
Okay.
Well, we had to stand up and walk
Move
over.
around.
There was some aspect of physical movement.
Right, right.
Okay, what else? There was some like affect thing that I noticed people commented on too. So like emotional a little bit, or just
like we've all been in such a situation, we can relate to that. we've all had roommates and husbands.
This is actually getting into the analysis that we're thinking, so we're responding to each other. It's more than just writing on a piece of paper, we're responding to what other people have written, and also kind of in dialogue. But even just something as simple as the music. How did that, so this is part of the analysis, like, how did the music affect this activity?
Gives you energy.
Move faster.
And it actually sets the time as well, because when the music is over, we think that we need to sit down now.
To help restrict.
Yeah, it's funny, I've tried lots of different types of music. This has been the most successful so far.
Right. It's just the faster rhythm, I think, also.
Not quickly.
Yeah.
The music was so uplifting. I didn't feel bad about writing this.
That's really interesting.
Very.
So I'll do a spoiler. These posters that are hidden, I did this semester, and I played some esoteric kind of counselor type music, so brain waves and yoga. And my students were like, what is this? So that actually had an effect on how they're interacting and what they're writing. So then to go to the last part, so what are some ways that you might use this strategy in your own course? Whether it's first semester, first year, fourth year, content, language, both together.
Well, I'm teaching a survey literature course right now, and so maybe for some, I don't know, some of the plays that we're working with, maybe to analyze character traits or something like that, and right now we're looking at 18th century texts. So maybe to kind of contextualize and kind of brainstorm how certain characters, their personality traits.
And if we have chalk here, there's a variation of this called roll on the wall, where you have basically just a figure of a gingerbread man or a human.
Sure.
And you can have people talk about inner traits in the middle, and then kind of how it shows, I mean, I can't think of a word off the top of my head, they're external traits. And you can have a conversation of how that might affect this and how this might affect this. And it's very similar that you can have posters, you can do it on a chalkboard. Okay, maybe one other thought?
There is actually like some like applications online that you can actually do them online, so that, like, for example, which word come the most, and then the PC does it already.
Word cloud.
Yeah, you can certainly do that for, especially if you said you had 30 students, that might be a thing to do at home to scaffold into another activity. Okay.
It seems that the prompts, though, need to be universally experienced. So either through a text that you all studied or an experience that most people have experienced or something.
Yeah, there needs to be some background. This is often a good way of eliciting people's prior knowledge or deepening a conversation about a reading that they've done. Okay. I think we actually do have time. I'll just show you really quickly what happened this was a second semester course. I did this maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. Sure. And this is showing, so I had to scaffold the language a little bit. And I saw in the end, a bad roommate, this would have been a better way to do it. This is, I do something and my roommate doesn't like it, so finds it bad. And this is my roommate does something and I find that bad. And what I found in this case, it was a little bit too complicated. So that's why I kind of switched to a bad roommate. So second semester, everyone, it gives also a little more freedom in how they can respond to that. And then, this one I have basically the same, but I did a lot of scaffolding in terms of vocabulary. So they had learned the term for a communal living situation, but this was just kind of a reminder. And the scaffolding was also in the target language. So again, kind of helping them to see they don't need a gloss in English necessarily. They can also kind of think about it in another way. Okay? So here, I wanted to just give a quick explanation of what exactly drama-based pedagogy is, the way that I'm using it. So I'll give you a minute to kind of read through this definition, and then we'll kind of do a quick think, pair, share about it. So when you're ready, we'll do a think, pair, share is that you have a minute, like a minute to think about it, and then with somebody who is near you, just discuss what phrase or what words are resonating with you as far as what this is and what you would maybe want to know more about. So I would say like maybe 2 minutes to discuss with your neighbor from this definition.